history and welcome to Retro Ice Time. This week we're staying inside Canada and visiting the city of Brandon, Manitoba and the 1982 Canadian Championships. It was a big year at Canadians, the 6th time to be hosted by the province of Manitoba, but the first time held outside the city of Winnipeg. In 1982, even further beyond the Manitoba border, here are some of the news highlights from around the world. Argentina moved to reclaim the Falkland Islands, but was defeated soundly by Britain in the subsequent war. Back in the U.S., Barney Clark becomes the first recipient of a permanent artificial heart. Tylenol is taken off the market after 8 people die due to drug tampering. This tragedy brings about the tamper-resistant package later that year. A proud Charles and Diana introduces to the future king, Prince William, born in 1982. The Queen travels to Canada to help sign our new Constitution and Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Clifford Olson is sentenced to life in prison for the murder of 11 people. And John Belushi, Henry Fonda, and Princess Grace all said goodbye in 1982. The 1982 Canadians. Brandon pulled out all the stops for the competitors, and they were bussed between 3 rinks, the Kinsman Arena for some practices and the Sportsplex and Keystone Centre for the figure and free skating events. If there was one of the senior events that seemed to be a shoe-in for the defending champions, it would have been the pair competition. Barb Underhill and Paul Martini were in Brandon to make it 4 in a row in the hopes of boosting their world ranking up a few notches when they continued on to Copenhagen a month after Brandon. They skated first after the warm-up, and although Paul fell on a double Salchow, the lifts and pair tricks were amazing. When you see them skate, it's hard to imagine that the biggest improvement in the polish of their performance would happen over the next 2 years under the watchful eyes of coach Louis Stong and choreographer Sandra Bezic.
Skate America gold medalist, 1981 Canadian pair champions, going for their 4th Canadian championship.
And John, they start their program with 2 of the most difficult things. First, a triple Lutz twist. Paul will throw Barbara up in the air. She'll do 3 twists, and then he has to catch her and put her down gently. Watch for it. Whoa! Up. And now, a throw. He will throw her into 3 revolutions from a back edge. A throw triple Salchow. Beautiful. Great beginning for Barbara Underhill, Paul Martini.
Underhill and Martini, 7th in the world last year, could very well reach the podium at the Worlds in Copenhagen this year.
With the pair lifts, watch how easily Barb goes up into the position. Wonderful timing. Most people seem to feel that the male skater of the pair must be tremendously strong. But it's not necessarily the case. It's all timing. They are never further than a hand's reach away from one another.
unfortunate fall on an easy jump.
What is really more important even than the fall was that it took Paul about 10 seconds to get back into the program.
Build into this beautiful back Dutch bar. Look at the long edges before Paul finally puts his toe pick in and centers it. Nice arch by Barbara.
Barbara Underhill and Paul Martini from the Oshawa Figure Skating Club and the Woodbridge Figure Skating Club.
Filling out the pair podium with Barbie and Paul in '82 were Lloyd Eisler with his first partner, Laurie Beyer, and Becky Goff and Mark Rowson. It was the beginning of the turnover years in women, too. The new '82 champion is next after this break, so don't go away. 1982 was a watershed year in Canadian women's skating. Liz Manley was still working her way up the ladder, and a year earlier, Tracy Wainman had been the chosen one, but with a growth spurt, Tracy was having serious problems with her jumps. When it came down to the free skate in Brandon, Kay Thompson became the eventual winner, despite the fact that she had not won any portion of the event. Tracy had been first in figures, and Liz had dominated in the short and long, but Kay, with a consistent second place throughout the competition and the self-confident motivation to fight when the going got tough, became the new Canadian champion.
Kay Thompson from the Granite Club, 1981 gold medalist. 18-year-old Kay Thompson, who wowed him in Moscow by winning the gold over there. She's one of the world's best spinners, and she's rapidly developing into one of the world's best all-round skaters. She's knocked off 25 pounds since last October, and it's very obvious in her now performance.
She's very superstitious. She found an open safety pin in the dressing room, and she said, "This has to mean that I'm going to skate well, as sharp as a tack," she says. You generally see women doing laybacks, but never on the opposite foot. Kay does it as well on both.
Always one of the nicer moves is this bower move, straight into a double axel jump. a spin that's becoming known now as the Thompson spin, of course. And you know, it's not just good enough to do one jump at a time. Judges look for a combination of jumps. Kay has planned here 3 double toe loops in a row. Let's watch for them. 1, 2, and the third one.
Kay was second in the compulsory figures. She was second in the short program. And Tracy Wainman, who led after the compulsory figures, but Elizabeth Manley won the short program. So the combination of it all has Kay Thompson in first place, Tracy Wainman second, and Elizabeth Manley third. You're going to be seeing that group right here. Seconds to go for Kay Thompson.
I think Kay's getting stronger as the program continues to move on. Here's another combination of jumps right into a double axel. Oh, beautifully done. Final butterfly into a stand-up fast spin. Look at her unusual movement of her head looking up into the ceiling. Beautiful performance by Kay Thompson.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Liz Manley rallied to second place behind Kay, while Tracy Wainman, the defending champion, slipped to third. For Tracy, it would be 4 long, lean years before she would regain her national title. In the movie theaters in '82, we would all become fans of one of the largest grossing films in history, E.T. In the rink, our men were soaring too. Orser and Pokar fight it out when we return. Welcome back to Retro. Here's the scene in Brandon at the '82 Canadians. 3-time men's champion Brian Pokar had been defeated in '81 by another Brian, this one of triple axel fame. This event remembers early in Brian Orser's career. Yes, he had the reputation for the triple axel, but artistically he had not yet found his niche. Following the short program, both Brians were tied for first place. It was all up to the free skate, and Orser skated first. Some technical TV problems occurred at the end of his performance, but it's almost all there and not to be missed.
Here is Brian Orser, the Canadian champion, the leader, one of the greats in the world today.
John, he's probably the most exciting free skater in the whole world. He's presently tied with Brian Pokar for first place. And so the pressure is on both of these guys. And as we said at the outset of this program, Brian is one of the few guys in the world who even attempts a triple axel jump. That's 3.5 revolutions. He just warmed up with that triple toe to build up for the big triple axel coming up right here. The most difficult jump in skating. Beautiful. Beautiful.
He makes it look so easy.
Well, you know, he does quadruples in practice, and it's not going to be long before he starts doing them in competition.
And I think with that new jumpsuit he's wearing tonight, he got an extra 2 or 3 feet out of that one. I can hardly wait to get to the World Championships in Copenhagen. There's Brian Orser there.
Watch the ease with which he lifts himself up into these jumps. He's building up for a triple Lutz jump where he'll use a toe as a pole in a pole vault, and up you go with 3 revolutions. That's his second over rotation.
It takes a very, very long time for a skater to learn exactly when the correct pull-out time in a jump is. And when you get into these multiple rotational things, you can make a mistake so easily. If a hip is out of line, a shoulder slightly up or down.
The most interesting matchup with Brian Orser tied with Brian Pokar. Pokar will be coming out right after.
The length of time that the skater's program must be for senior men and senior pairs has been reduced by half a minute this year. The International Skating Union felt that 5 minutes was too long and that the skaters were getting into too much repetition.
Final jump, a death drop.
Was the triple axel enough to put Orser ahead of Pokar? You better come back after this break. Brian Pokar has his dream skate. In '81, with the loss of his title, Brian Pokar thought his world was going to crumble. He worked furiously early the next season, and then real disaster did strike. A burst appendix and stress fractures that kept him away from training until just 8 weeks before nationals. He went back to an old favored program, Yugoslav Wedding, and let the magic begin. Skating right after Orser could have been intimidating. Instead of feeling like the energy had been sucked out of the building, Pokar stepped onto the ice, and while waiting for his name to be called, immediately cranked out a double axel. For many reasons, technically, artistically, and emotionally, this is one of my most favorite performances ever.
An absolute gentleman on ice. So many people right now, their hearts are thumping, their fingers are crossed, hoping that he can do it. Not necessarily win it, but do it, finish it, and don't make any of the mistakes that could come about as a result of the problems that he has had.
As you saw, he just took 2 deep breaths. He's tied for first with Orser, and he has a very difficult beginning here. A double axel first, a step into a triple toe. Let's watch more. There's the double axel. Now a step into a triple toe. Great beginning for Brian Pokar. Another difficult combination from a back edge, 3 revolutions.
Oh, the smile on his face.
One of Brian's nicest moves is a spread eagle into a triple salchow. Watch it right from there to a back edge into 3 revolutions, and he's skating magnificently.
This is the old program, you know. This is the program from 2 years ago, music and choreography.
This is one of the most dramatic moments I've ever experienced
difficult combination of the number of jumps, ending with this triple loop. And a triple toe loop, and there's the first mistake. A wobble on the landing of that jump.
To me, the question now is, does a triple axel win the competition? To me, the strength of the interpretation for Polkar makes my vote in his camp.
Three-time Canadian champion. 60 days ago, it was said that his career was ended.
Another triple with a combination on the double. He has pulled out all stops. And he has to regain that championship.
I'm sure the judges were warned not to let emotion become involved in their judgment, just as they were told in the Canadian ladies final with Tracy Raymond involved because she was sick.
Very high split jump, double flip. He's very close to the end of his program now. Last two jumps coming up, two double axels. Let's see if he does them. There's the first one. One more to go. There it is. Look at him. He is so happy.
Sometimes even the best is not enough to win. Polkar stayed with a silver medal behind Orser, and Vancouverite Dennis Coy was third. Gary Beacom from Toronto finished fourth. Top of the music charts in '82 was Olivia Newton-John with Physical. Wonder if Brian Orser would describe his skating that way. Let's ask him after this next break. The men's competition back in '82 was a squeaker, and Brian, maybe a bit of an omen about the kinds of squeakers that were waiting for you in the future. Do you remember the night?
Yeah, I do remember the night, and it was extra stressful because I was defending my title for the first time.
Yeah.
And that whole season was stressful, and I remember it being a squeaker, and I remember Brian Polkar skating so well, and, you know, it was just, you know, I just went along with it, and it was, you know, it was a first of many squeakers in my career.
Well, you know what? Johnny did an interview with you and Brian both after, and we have a little clip of it which I would like you to see.
Sure.
Have a look and watch the monitor.
One of the most dramatic moments I've ever seen in skating was created tonight by Brian Orser and by Brian Polkar. The two Brians tied coming into a final tonight. What a dramatic moment that was. How did you feel inside, Brian?
Well, I've never been this nervous going into the long program as I was tonight. And it is quite different going into it as a defending champion. But I felt confident going into it, and a few little slip-ups, but other than that, it felt pretty strong.
Brian, we said it was a dramatic moment because we really didn't know 60 days ago whether you would ever skate again in a championship. I'm wondering if you ever thought you would.
Actually, up until about Christmas time, I was wondering if I would even be here. But on the contrary to Brian, I didn't feel nervous at all. I just went out there and gave it my all, and I skated the best program I've ever skated.
So what do you think? Do you remember that?
I don't remember the interview. And looking back at it, I'm like, wow, I was so young. What a baby. You know, we were very green from the, you know, the Team Mariposa was these are some of the humbling beginnings of us. And you know, I was pretty green, I guess, obviously, even with interviews and even with the performance and costuming and, you know.
Oh, sure. You talked off camera about the costume. What was the story behind the costume?
Well, I had been working with a choreographer out of Los Angeles who was connected with Ice Capades, who said, I'll get a costume for you from Ice Capades. So they were ready and able.
Like they made it for you?
They made it for me and sent it to me, and I actually received it in Brandon. So I never got to practice in it. It was actually a little bit too big. It was very heavy because of all the mirrors and the things on it, and just really not my style. But I went along with it, and I wore it, and
yeah, well,
never wore it again.
Never wore it again. Do you have a whole cupboard that's full of costumes that have memories attached to them?
Yeah, I do, and I kind of got over it. And that particular costume we just saw went in a garage sale I had a few years ago.
Oh, no.
And, you know, $5, gone.
Have you seen it since?
No.
On anybody?
No. Not yet.
That would kind of bring things rushing back, wouldn't it?
Would.
Let's go back to Brandon again. You spoke before we saw the interview about how different it was being the champion and having to come back and defend your title. What were the kinds of pressures you were feeling? And you skated first, too, between the two of you.
Oh.
Yes. Yes,
okay.
You did.
I was just feeling pressure all season. And, you know, after Halifax in 1981, when I won the first time, and it was a surprise, and I could have, you know, I came in and with the triple axel, and boom, I was there. And then I had to live up to that, especially with the triple axel. And it was overwhelming. All season was overwhelming. And suddenly I had everybody on my shoulders, and everybody had an idea, and everybody had some direction for me. And everybody was pulling, and I just couldn't take it. I just wanted to go back up to Penetang and hang out and just do it the way I've always been doing it. So I learned some lessons, and that year was a major turning point for me as well after 82. You know, when you go on to 83 and 84, you can see just a nice cleanup of everything, choreography, and costuming.
And a real development, too.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, when I think about that program from Canadians, you are still kind of a YMCA skater at that point.
Absolutely.
And then something really started to happen.
Yeah, and I'm not sure really what it was, but kind of got through 82 and getting and keeping my title. And then I was sort of a force to be reckoned with. And on the world scene, I was doing something. Mm-hmm. So, you know, then I just started to mature as a man and as a skater. And I started working with Ushi, and she started helping with my style.
Ushi Kessler.
Yes, and it was really, it was neat, and it was neat to sort of see the progression over 8 years. I
also think, I mean, I was commentating on you at that point, which is sort of weird because then we went on to work together on CTV's commentary team too. But I remember looking at you as a skater and thinking, that one's smart. Because not a lot of oh boy, I'm going to get letters about this, but not a lot of skaters are necessarily rocket scientists, and you don't have to be. But you were the type of skater that looked at other people. You would see you at the boards during events, and you'd be watching other people, and it was almost like you were soaking things in. Am I right?
No, you're absolutely right. And I would look around and sort of look at, you know, size up the competition, see what they were doing, especially at the World Championship. You know, I would look around and you know, I remember watching Scott Hamilton and Norbert Schramm and thinking, you know, they're not really that great, and you know, and
or that much better than you are.
Or that much better, and I can actually compete with these guys soon, like next year, kind of thing. So, you know, I do look around, and I try to watch what the programs are like and see the combinations and the spins and areas where I can actually work on when I get home to be better than them. So yes, I think I was smart and took it all in.
Yeah, very aware. When did you know you wanted to be a skater?
Oh boy.
Your sister used to skate.
Yes. And at one time, my entire family was involved with the Midland Figure Skating Club. 2 brothers, 2 sisters. My mom was the president of the club. So we were...
You didn't have a choice.
I didn't really have much of a choice, but first time I put on skates, of course I loved it. And I was actually having this conversation with Kurt Browning the other day, and just any time there was ice, usually outdoor, I would go on it. And if my parents, you know, if it was dark out and they wanted me home, that would be the first place they'd go to, is go find a rink someplace. And I would be out there by myself, just doing it, just twirling and skating fast and falling, and had no idea of time, and had to go home after that. But it was...
It was always a love.
Ah, passionate. I just loved it.
And you
Loved
still
being
do,
out there.
huh?
Yeah, I do.
And you're still skating brilliantly, I might add. There was a year or so in there where I think you were kind of losing your motivation.
Yeah. I kind of lost my focus, and I don't know. It's just sort of one of those things that happen in life with everything. And I really, really love skating now, and I like skating well.
You got those old triples back?
I got a lot of the triples back. Even, you know, just a month ago, I started doing triple axel again.
Oh, don't scare me
So,
with that.
which I've just actually committed myself now for next year.
Oh, no.
But yeah, and it feels good. I'm probably the oldest guy in the world doing triple axel.
You taught me something very important, and I'm going to end with this because it's probably the best piece of advice that any skater can give to anyone about being the best at what you want to be. I asked you once what your secret to being great was, and you said, I do homework. I work hard, I train. I never take for granted that because I could do it yesterday, I'll be able to do it today.
Hard work. That's it. And I watch some kids in rinks. You know, sometimes they're hit and miss, but if you work hard every day and you pay your dues, it'll happen.
And it did for you, and I can't thank you enough for spending the time
My pleasure.
with us today. A delight. Brian Orser. Brandon was number 2 in an uninterrupted string of 8 national senior titles for Brian. Other sports stories that year included the win by Stanley Cup champions, the New York Islanders, beating the Vancouver Canucks 4-1. After this next time out, we'll be back with some early history on the 91 World Dance Champions when they still represented Canada. Who could that be? Compact discs made their first appearance in 1982, and we all know how far they've come along. Fitness was a bit of a craze as well. Aerobics classes were sold out across the country. And Trivial Pursuit also made its triumphant debut. If you weren't playing it, you were trying to find a store that still had some on the shelves. Back in '82, I don't recall many figure skating questions in Trivial Pursuit, however, but I did play with a lot of these Rubik's Cubes. Now, just to demonstrate how popular skating has become today, even crossword puzzles frequently have clues about skating, and if I recall correctly, Isabelle and Paul Duchesne have come up more than once as being 91 World Dance Champions from Canada who represented France. In '82, they were just second in junior dance, and it would be 4 more years before they made their move on the French world team. From Brandon, I would have to say this is some of the worst commentary ever, and please excuse the pronunciation. Isabelle and Paul Duchesne.
In the junior dance, another fine young couple from the Meadow Skating Club in Ottawa, Isabelle and Paul Duchesne. Catchy start.
It's wonderful to see the dancers use such imagination. I think the rest of skating could take a lesson from them. They take some of the most simple steps and with a little innovation make them something quite unforgettable.
Very difficult to move more than 1 or 2 places in dance competition, but Isabelle and Paul are really making that effort to move out of 4th. or Quebec. Out of the Meadow Club in Ottawa, have taken good old traditional dance music and they've given it a lot of imagination in the choreography.
Well, the dancers these days, John, are taking much greater, I guess, taking a bigger chance with all of the things they do. It seems that dance has been meant to bend the rules over and over and over again, and I suppose it's only that way that we see progress and a little more leniency as far as the rules are concerned.
Like that, for example. And that's the 3-minute performance by the Cheneys from the Meadows Club in Ottawa.
Brother and sister, Isabel and Paul Duchesne. 60 Minutes in Dallas, we're hitting the big ratings on TV in '82, and I'll bet you see some of your other favorites too. Stay with us for one more break and join us in a moment for Tracy and Bob's first Canadian performance. You're going to love it. We've got one final skate from 1982 Canadians in Brandon to share with you today on Retro, and it's the premiere performance of the brand new team of Tracy Wilson from Port Moody, BC, and Rob McCall from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Rob was already Canadian champion with Marie McNeil, but following 81 Worlds and the team's 13th place finish, Marie retired and Rob went shopping for a new partner. Tracy answered the ad, and the rest, they say, is history.
But they finally got together and they moved to the West Coast to be taught by Bernie Ford. So that the title is now open and they are the current leaders.
The music they have chosen for their free dance is Slaughter on 10th Avenue. Despite the fact that they are not doing the same steps, the unison and the idea, the concept, they both contribute to it equally.
Ice dancing has improved, and it continues to improve because they interpret the music, but they also act, and that's one of the very important things. They use the music to their advantage. jump and spin like the pair skaters, but the pair skaters could learn a lot from dancers like this as far as choreography and interpretation is concerned.
Twenty-three-year-old Rob McCall from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. 20-year-old Tracy Wilson from Port Moody, British Columbia.
Tracy and Rob went on to a 10th place finish at Worlds that year, opening the door for Canada to send 2 dance teams to Helsinki in '83. Also on the Canadian team in '82 in Copenhagen, Underhill and Martini, and Beyer and Eisler in pairs, Kay Thompson and Elizabeth Manley in women. And in men, Brian Orser, who finished 4th, and Brian Polkar, who left Copenhagen with a juicy bronze medal in his skate bag. Following Worlds, Polkar turned professional to compete on the pro circuit and for many years to provide considerable insight with his commentary during CTV's coverage of figure skating. That's it today on Retro from Brandon Sportsplex and Keystone Center and the 1982 Canadian Championships. Next week, we'll continue moving westward till we have the Pacific Ocean in our sight. Victoria, BC is our stopping point to relive memories from the 1988 Canadian Championships. It was a big one just weeks before the Calgary Olympics. I'll save the space for you, and I hope to see you there. Bye.